Okay, everybody, Tri-City Sports Now. I got to remember here, I left the microphone on that entire time. Although you didn't hear a thing, did you? I want to thank Jay Santos for joining me, Voice of the Bucs, talking about Carl Torbush, who is the, now soon-to-be former football coach at East Tennessee State. What can I tell you? It looks like ETSU is going to be going a totally different direction. I always liked the staff that Torbush put together because it had, Billy Taylor on it, who's very respected around these parts, as well as Teddy Gaines, who, of course, is no longer on the staff because he got arrested, but he was going to coach the DBs, and Mike O'Kane, who used to be the head coach at North Carolina State and has been on this show, was the offensive coordinator. That's not a bad staff for a startup program. It is, however, a veteran staff, and you wonder if maybe some young blood might not be the way to go in the future. Obviously, there's young blood in the in the athletic director's office now with Scott Carter. One thing about Carter that I would point this out, and I've talked a lot about how in the Tennessee coaching search, how nobody has really looked at Phil Fulmer, hired by Tennessee to hire a football coach. Well, he hired Torbush at ETSU, and he's 11-22, whereas Vince Dooley, the advisor for Kennesaw State, look where they are. Now, maybe you want to say, well, that's the max. That's too high. But Old Dominion was in the football playoffs their third year. Mercer, which is in their fifth year, and yes, I know that ETSU defeated Mercer this year. They were fortunate to do so. Their star linebacker, got kicked out of the game. Other than that, I don't think that ETSU wins that game in overtime, 26-20. But I would point this out with ETSU and Carl Torbush and where this is all going with that. As I suddenly have to remember my thoughts here. I just, nobody was looking at, it's 11-22. I did like that Torbush, disciplined the two players that stiffed the cabbie, and they won the game. That was their biggest win of the year. I liked that he instilled that discipline. I liked that he got rid of the two coaches that were arrested. But yeah, when you have two assistant coaches, not players, but assistant coaches that are arrested on your staff, not good. And you're not being arrested for things like a freedom walk or something like that. They're not sitting at a lunch counter or something like that. I mean, they're yapping at, causing a ruckus in a hotel or domestic dispute. That's not good. Anyway, and we talked a little bit about this with Jay Sanders. Right now, there's just a lot of blah around ETSU. There's not a lot of talk. And so I would hope that Scott Carter would hire a charismatic coach. But I want to give you this. What if Jeremy Pruitt, who, remember, was, not hired by Mississippi State? What if Jeremy Pruitt isn't a good coach at Tennessee? What if that doesn't come out? I'm not critical of the hire. Very good defensive coordinator, by the way, for Alabama, becoming the head coach at Tennessee. I'm not really that critical, although I will tell you, I think the staff that he's brought on, and you've heard about them in the update, a couple of guys from Colorado State, quarterbacks coach at Southern California, won't be plucking a Matt Canada away from LSU to be the offensive coordinator. Bob Shoop, by the way, is already, we mentioned this top hour, he's already gone down to Mississippi State to join his old friend Joe Moorhead. They coached together at Penn State. They're now at Mississippi State. But what if this doesn't work out? That means that Fulmer would be 0 for 2 in football coaching hires. Now, what if Scott Carter brings in a really good coach? What if he brings in a coach that turns around ETSU? Look, they should be winning more. This should not be the SOBs, the same old Bucks. This is a program with a new stadium. This is a program now that has 63 scholarships, whereas the old ETSU, the football program that was disbanded after 2003, only had 59 scholarships. This is not your father's Southern Conference. There's no more Appalachian State to beat you like a drum every year. Oh, I guess they've scheduled them out of conference twice for a money game. We get that. But that isn't around anymore. There's no more Marshall to lose to. You should be winning more. You should be scoring a touchdown against Chattanooga. You've got a decent quarterback. There's building blocks here. Maybe they'll look to building around Austin Herrick for the next coach. Maybe they will. I don't know. But anyway, I would just say this. What if Carter hires a gem? What if he hires someone? Jay was talking about top 3 teams in the Southern Conference make the playoffs. What if he hires that coach? What if he hires that Mike Cavan, that John Robert Bell? I always thought Paul Hamilton won with less. What if he hires that guy? And then a couple of years, if Jeremy Pruitt doesn't work out, UT needs a new AD. Carter has a couple of years there. Remember, he used to be in the athletic department at UT. I absolutely hate that there's this automatic philosophy of looking at ETSU as a stepping stone. I hate that. But there is some reality to it. I don't think it's as prominent as some people would like it to be, or as some people make it out to be. But there is some truth to that. I mean, Mike Cavan did leave ETSU for SMU. Robinson and DeChillis did leave to rejoin their alma maters. 40 years ago, Sonny Smith from good old Roan Mountain. Oh, I know that there's this new arena. I know that ETSU is joining the Southern Conference. And I know that Auburn had never made the NCAAs up to that point, and ETSU had, but I'm going to leave ETSU for Auburn football school. So you can't blame him from going to the SEC and all that. Probably not. There's more money there. I mean, I get that. But at that time, that would not have been the slam dunk move that you might consider it to be today when Sonny Smith left. So there has been some, movements on there. But I hate this idea that if you do well at ETSU, then you're going to go somewhere else. I hate that mentality. There is a little truth to it, though. And I'm just saying, Fulmer's 68. He's not going to be the AD forever. And frankly, I don't think he has the administrative background to be there for a while. He's there to hire a football coach, and then hopefully it doesn't become too many cooks spoil the broth, and then get him back to prominence. Schedule is pretty tough for UT next year, folks. The only gimme might be ETSU going to Knoxville. But there's the game in West Virginia and Charlotte. There's the road trip to Auburn. 4-8 could happen again. Anyway, and if that does, how patient will UT fans be? Probably more so because Fulmer's in charge. But to what extent? That's a topic for next week. I mean, has this whole coaching search changed the mentality, the expectations of Tennessee football for their fans? You can't imagine it's 98 anymore. Just isn't. The landscape has changed. I'm absolutely sick and tired of people saying, oh, the SEC East is so weak. Top to bottom, it's actually better than it was when UT won the national championship. You can't expect... South Carolina isn't going 1-10 anymore. Vanderbilt isn't going automatically 2-9 or whatever. Kentucky actually isn't going 1-10 every year. There's not those games aren't automatic anymore. They were when Peyton Manning was playing. And so, the expectation, you got to expect a little bit, consider these things. Anyway, but I just asked that if he hires a home run and Fulmer strikes out with Pruitt, could Carter be the AD in a couple of years down at UT? Again, I hate the mentality. Oh, well, he's got to go somewhere. But he's got a tie. He worked down there for many years. And he's also got that personality that is always so up and ready and all this, that I think maybe, just maybe, they go for that more in East Tennessee than they do in some other places. Anyway, just some talk, about the two assistant coaching hires. If I can go back to UT here in our final moment. Boy, we got so much stuff here that I really didn't get a chance to talk so much about the golf course. I'm going to try to get to that on Monday. But yes, it looks like December 31st is the last day for Buffalo Valley Golf Course. They're talking about the city possibly seeing what they can do. There's talks of using it for bicycles. They will maintain it afterwards. You don't have to worry about it being overgrown and weeds. However, it's a money loser. I kind of agree with former Johnson City Mayor Pete Paduch here. I think that, city's got to get out of the entertainment business. Maybe the city needs to get out of the golf business too. They, as we speak right now, own 2 golf courses, and they're both losing money. You tell me. Anyway, obviously it's not going to be a golf course too much longer. And they may, the city may try to sell it. If they can't find a buyer that they want to, then they might go to a real estate developer, that sort of thing. But yeah, soon, if you haven't played Buffalo Valley, hope the weather is good for the last month, because you'll only have another month to do so. That's the news there. Anyway, I did want to, and this will be my last topic of the day, the Tennessee. So far, the assistant coaches that have come on, I don't think any of these guys are big names. I mean, a couple guys from Colorado State. I start wondering why they didn't hire Mike Bobo. I do like Terry Fair being hired, however. He's a guy that people will like. Former Tennessee Volunteer, a real big star. Also, I like Tracy Rocker, a former big-time Auburn star. Anybody remember from Appalachian State assistant coach Stacy Searles? Back in the day, down at Auburn, the one-on-ones, they called it the Tracy and Stacy show. It was Stacy Searles, who was the best offensive lineman at Auburn at the time, and Tracy Rocker, who was the best defensive lineman at Auburn at the time. Tracy Rocker played a couple of years for the Redskins. Going at it in practices under those late 80s Pat Dye teams, the one that tied Syracuse in the Sugar Bowl, that team. And those matchups were legendary. Well, Tracy Rocker now is going to be an assistant coach, D-line coach at Tennessee. Got to tell you, the defensive line could not have been any less effective for the Volunteers this past year. So it's a big name hire. It's a guy who's been around the SEC. The thing of it is that there aren't any real big names. There isn't anybody that you say, that's an up and come. That's a good guy who could be a head coach in a few years. You're getting instead a lot of guys who have been good assistants, who will always be assistants, who have SEC ties. And it does speak a little bit of who you would hire if you had been out of the game for a while, but are looking up, well, who's left over that I remember from my coaching tenure? Kind of Phil Fulmer hires. Tri-City Sports Now. We'll see you next week. Colin Coward is next.
Irwin, 1420 NBC Sports Radio.